Madam Dorcas, I want to thank you very much. That was a great tour. Now we understand how a passenger feels and the experience from when they get into the airport until they depart out of the country.
And we managed to do the issue of head of maintenance under ATO. Just now, for a few minutes, we want to share with you the requirements for the maintenance manager or head of maintenance for an AOC. And we thought it's good to share with this forum where these requirements emanate from, so that even as we make decisions in the regulations as we adopt the ICAO standards, then we will all be understanding why some decisions have to be made the way they are being made. And I think knowledge is power for all of us, not only AOC holders, not only engineers, even any other stakeholder that is here with us today outside aviation fraternity. Karibuni sana. So we will project quickly the annex. Will projection. We thought of doing this because one of stakeholder yesterday said he had sat with even lawyers and never found where these things are. But it's good to make it clear for all of us that they do exist. Up there is from online, that's ICAO platform, ICAO portal. We have Annex 8, Annex 6, sorry, Part 1. This is on commercial air transport operations. The topic there, Chapter 8, is aircraft maintenance. It's not talking about AOC. It is the aircraft in this AOC. So in Annex 6, Part 1, commercial air transport, and then Annex 6, Part 3 is the same, but a different chapter. It's there, helicopter maintenance. But what ICAO has done, we will use Annex 6, Part 1 as an example for the helicopter because it is a copy and paste from ICAO. The only change there is the aeroplane and the helicopter insertion in Part 3 of Annex 6. We will not read, but the title is Aeroplane Maintenance. If we go down to 8.1, Operators Maintenance Responsibility. We are highlighting this because when the flow says the work of an engineer is just to open panels and screws, we want to demystify and really know what is the role of an operator when it comes to maintenance of his aircraft. If you look at 8.11, it's pretty straightforward. And these are standards. They are not recommendations by ICAO. That 8.11 we have already taken on board in the AOC and administration regulations and operation of aircraft regulations for commercial air transport. Then that operator shall ensure that, in accordance with procedures acceptable to the state of registry, there is A, B, C. That is the role of an operator. 8.1.2 has since been superseded. The end of it was until 4th of November 2020. So in our regulations, you will still find that requirement, but through this amendment, we are inserting the new requirement of 8.1.2, which we have already inserted. That's a new regulation. But it says 8.1.2, that as of 5th November 2020, the operator shall not operate an aeroplane unless maintenance on the aeroplane, including any associated engine, propeller, and part, is carried out, A, by an organization complying with Annex 8. Annex 8 in this case is the AMO regulations, which have again been amended in line with Annex 8, Part 2, Chapter 6. That is either approved by the state of registry, in this case approved by KCAA, or is approved by another contracting state and is accepted by the state of registry. This is an organization in China where, for example, our main airline would take their engines there for overhaul. Some of our operators here could be taking the aircraft for D-check in Amsterdam. Those organizations have been approved by those contracting states and acceptable by the authority. And B, also this maintenance can be done by a person or organization in accordance with procedures that are authorized by the state of registry. So that one is clear for all of us, because yesterday we said, as an operator, I take my aircraft to an AMO. There it is. It's allowed. You will take your aircraft there. But as we go down, 8.1.3 still talks about something about until November, which has since been superseded. And 8.1.4 is where the issue comes in. Because the state, we are supposed to show in our regulations where this standard 8.1.4 has been complied. The operator shall employ a person or group of persons to ensure that all maintenance is carried out in accordance with the Maintenance Control Manual. Note 8.1.4 is where the discussion comes in. 8.1.5 is the operator shall ensure that the maintenance of the aeroplane is performed in accordance with the maintenance program. So there are two documents. Maintenance Control Manual, which is an AOC document. AMP is an AOC document, not an AMO document, as per ICAO standard. So if we are doing otherwise, please, this is the standard. So, and because one document which was mentioned was the one mentioned in 8.2, which is the MCM, we will not read, but the MCM should be in accordance with the requirements of 11.2 of this annex. Down at 11.2, you will still find the same things mentioned up there. That those things should also be in the operator's MCM, those topics that will be mentioned. But of key is the implementation. Now this is the annex. This is the standard. You have to go to the implementation, which is given by ICAO in ICAO document number 9760. If you continue reading the annex, it will send you to ICAO doc 9760, and it sends you to 2.5.2. Annex 6, part 1, 8.1.4, where it was calling for employment of a person or persons. And part 3, section 2, 6.1.4, which is the helicopter maintenance, the copy and paste as is, require an operator employ a person or group of persons to ensure that all maintenance is carried out in accordance with the MCM. This requirement should be clearly demonstrated during the inspection. 2522 is now where the management personnel comes in. That the AID in this case is the Airworthiness Inspector. This is the inspection department of KCAA. Should determine that the structure of the applicant's maintenance control organization is set forth, clearly delineating duties and responsibilities for all key personnel, including but not limited to the manager or managers for engineering, quality, and maintenance. The names of all incumbents should be listed. The details of the organizational structure should be included as a part of the MCM, and if necessary, also defined separately. Is that short and clear? This is what we seek from the flow. That as we come to inspect the AOC, which we do on a daily basis, we go to an air operator and they send us to the AMO. We go to the AMO and they send us to the air operator. Who is keeping the logbooks? Who is updating them? So, but if we follow this guidance from ICAO, I think that separation will come in. So that we know, even as you take your aircraft as an ATO, as an AOC holder to that AMO, you still have a part to play the organization as an AOC holder or an ATO holder with regard to aeroplane maintenance. Not even looking at the complexity, how small you are, but it is about the maintenance of that one small aircraft or that one big aircraft. Then it looks like this manager engineering and manager maintenance manager looks like it is not just any other liaison officer. It has to be somebody with those qualifications to do the duties which have been given. And you can see here clearly that the names must be there. Currently, we don't have those names because of the confusion. We take the aircraft to the AOC, dump it there, and go. But we've been given functions by ICAO, a few of them, which we have just sampled as a department, just to see what are some of these duties of head of maintenance. One is to ensure that each aeroplane, helicopter, the operator operates is maintained in an airworthy condition. Who will maintain this? It's a joint task. AMO will do the real maintenance, but again, even the AOC holder has a part to play on this side. That is maintained, and B, ensure that the operational and emergency equipment necessary for the intended flight is serviceable. It goes on and on. The list can be very long. If you look at number C, is the certificate of airworthiness remains valid. I don't think the MO cares much about your COV. Yes, they will take the aircraft, do all the maintenance, but whose responsibility to make sure that you apply for COV renewal, issuance, all those things. So it's the role of this operator. And then if you look at number 2, that a maintenance person will ensure that the operator shall not operate an aeroplane, as we have discussed up there, unless it is maintained by an approved maintenance organization or even signed off by a person or an organization that has been approved by the authority. 3 is all maintenance. Ensure that all maintenance is carried in accordance with the Maintenance Control Manual, approved maintenance program, and that all maintenance is controlled in accordance with the 2 manuals. That 4, administrative arrangements between the operator and the AMO, e.g. contract development and approval or acceptance, are entered into in accordance with the regulations and approved procedures. 5, maintenance-related AOC documents are developed, approved, kept current, and provided to the relevant personnel for use, e.g. MCM, approved maintenance program, reliability programs, MELs, mass and balance, ground, and all those manuals that we all know. So this list can go on and on. KCAA has not shared this list with you before, and that is why, even when we are approving your MCMs, every operator has a story to tell. We want to work together as a team. And finally, I think with this kind of submission, we are all knowledgeable and we are all refreshed, so that the issue of qualification of that maintenance manager should come out clear for all of us, so that it doesn't look like another team wants you to do this and another one. This is what we all want to stand by. Thank you very much. Yes, yes, I mean. I'm saying, eh? Yeah, sure. It's there. Yeah, it's a Word document, and we mentioned it's there. The doc reference is 9760. Please read through it. Yeah. This is the Word document. Just project. Oh, okay. Major, you go to Annex 6, Part 1, Chapter 11.2. Yeah, it's there. Projector. So on this operator's MCM is where you get these duties and responsibilities. So what we will want you to do is you write, because they are referenced all over, it's Annex 6, Part 1, Chapter 8.1, the way we've read. It will send you to Annex, the same Annex 11.2. On helicopters, you go to Chapter 6, and this document will send you to ICAO Doc 9760. You read together. Any other question? I mean, you don't seem satisfied. But we were reading at 8 point. Yeah. That's why we are saying, yeah. I'll give you shortly. Any other question? If we are okay?
I've got a question here.
Yeah, okay.
My name is Captain Gumo from Hawaii Aviation. I've seen the CAO document there, clearly specifying the person, but I have a problem with the competencies that have been put by KCAA, because that job is purely administrative.
Thank you. We've taken your comment. It's purely administrative. My team is writing, eh?
It's purely administrative.
Yeah, purely administrative. Okay. There's somebody there, kindly, then we can answer before.
Okay, thank you. My names are Engineer Thairo Moge, an independent contractor and technical representative. Now, I think the big thing here is about the qualifications and also the job roles of this person. If we start from the job roles, that's what will give us the direction of what are the qualifications for this person. Because from last year, this year, it seems it's being taken as a very administrative job, while it's a very technical job. You've included the MCM. I have, in Kenya, and luckily we don't have what we call in Europe, CAMO, which is Continuing Airworthiness Management Organizations. I hope we'll reach there one day. But currently, the only thing now you can do is have the maintenance manager. And what are the roles? I'll just state 4 or 5 roles. Apart from what you've said, there is a composition and developing of aircraft maintenance and reliability programs, identifying all maintenance requirements and activities for the aircraft. Number 3, tracking of mandatory items and review manufacturer documentation. The other point is preparing, scheduling, and reviewing of maintenance activities. Direct communication with subcontracted companies and manufacturers. Now, administration of technical aircraft records. And the other one is on-site support during the aircraft maintenance. Because you are the representative of the ATO or the AOC at the AMO, you are the liars, but that is not the big job. You are administrative, but that is not the only job. So if we bring this issue, first of all, with regard to the job roles, that is now where we'll come up with the qualifications. Who is this qualified person? Is it someone just because they hold a diploma? I've been a technician before. I've been a trainee before, and I know what it takes to be an engineer. Currently, I have the 3 licenses, Kenyan, UKCAA, and EASA. When I talk of EASA and KEMO, I know what happens there, but we've not reached that point. So don't belittle this position. It is a very big position. And that's why I'm saying that, please, don't water down. Those are the job roles. So if you are an AOC or an ATO, those are the job roles you expect the person who will be the head of maintenance or the maintenance manager to be taking, not just what we've had before. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you, yeah.
I don't know, I fly helicopters. My maintenance manual has given me a continuous airworthiness inspection schedule. You don't have to develop anything, is there. My component TBOs are clearly spelled in the maintenance manual, and they are in the AMP. So what I'm saying is, when my aircraft is due for a check, I know at these so many hours my engine is going to go for overhaul. Whether you have somebody there or not, the issue is you need somebody to track and tell you, well, your aircraft is due. What the worst that can happen if you forget? You get grounded. Nothing will happen. But now we are saying you have one aircraft, you need to employ somebody to do nothing up until when you are due for a TBO. You are saying he cannot sign for you even a minor defect. The AMO you have contracted, they do the work. So I think we should be honest with ourselves, because if you got one aircraft and you're employing those people, you shut down.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that was good knowledge sharing, because after we share this knowledge, let us all go back and relook at it. There is the way we do things, and there is the way we ought to do things. Sometimes it's unlearning. We can change our thinking a little bit. Because sometimes it doesn't mean that the way we do things, we are doing it correctly all the time. It doesn't mean that way. This is the way it's been presented. Currently, we have an ICAO finding for airworthiness department on this area. And this is normally a joint effort to address such findings, because it takes the CA and the operator working together. So with this knowledge, we are not telling you that we are still forcing or insisting that the licensed aircraft maintenance engineer remains on those qualifications. We are submitting to you that these are the requirements, and it is a standard. So we will go from here and work as a team internally to come up with something, and especially looking at the roles of that position. Maybe two more, then we can move to the next agenda, kindly.
Yes, good afternoon. There's a complication that has been in existence, and I think it's a justified complication. When an investor has invested in both the AOC and the AMO, and then the requirement is that they employ a head of maintenance at the AOC and at the AMO. We have requested successfully over time, that the head of base acts as head of maintenance at the AOC as well, which sometimes is resisted by UN bodies, WFP, UN Black, and all that. We would want an indictment, maybe an advice from CA on one part, that is it, because it seems proper. You can't have somebody on there are two offices away doing and actually doing the same thing, and actually even having a head of quality at the AOC who also follows up on what is being done at the MO through the contract. That is one. The other one is having to have a common quality management system. The AOC provides that there will be, if you have an AMO and you have an AOC, you can have two heads of quality. The problem with that AOC is that there's no guidance on how do you oversee the operation of the double-forked QMS system. So it's left blank for anybody to think. And I can see they have borrowed it directly from the quality management system training manual. If you go to the training manual, you pick it out, even like ISO training. It's been put in the law, just like that. But you can see there's a glaring deficit, or the lack of oversight as far as this animal called QMS with two departments and two heads of quality is concerned. Please give us an advice and maybe direction.
Okay, Gidaya, then we need to move to airworthiness regulations. Yes, Gidaya?
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to get a clarification, because even how we inquired from yesterday, in the presentation you had, which is an extract from the ICAO document, does it have specific recommendations on the qualifications? That was my inquiry, because it indicated the roles, but I did not see the specific recommendations on the requirements of that qualifications, yes. So that, and then also a footnote is that, yes, as much as it's an ICAO standard, it's still a recommended practice. So I think the state should be allowed to be able to customize it to fit what this, the nation or Kenya requires. So I just need a clarification on if the qualifications were indicated in the ICAO proposal standard.
Thank you. For the two, Mr. Gishuki, when you are handling an organization that is both an AMO and an AOC, it's almost pretty straightforward because ICAO allows that even an MCM and an MPM can be one document approved by the authority, though MCM is now supposed to be accepted, not approved. So it allows that both documents can be put into one book. Also, the issue of quality can also be done as one, as long as they meet qualifications of being a quality for the AOC and quality for the maintenance. But now the bigger case that we are dealing with in Kenya is most AOCs are not particularly the same as AMOs. They go out there to look for this service for aircraft maintenance. That's where now we need to work out a technical guide, which currently they don't have, especially on management personnel, because the only document which is there is an order for the inspector number 26. We now need to change that to bring it on board and talk what we are talking facts in that guide, as you say, a small that I have this, am I supposed to implement this? Then we will need to guide.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be presenting the input we got from the stakeholders. The input we got from the stakeholders during the last engagement, both the virtual and the one we had in November. Okay, I'll just go as they try sort out the issues. So we had the first engagement in June. We had the virtual stakeholders comments. We received several recommendations from the industry. We managed to input or onboard most of them. We had several comments from members from Helint. One Nyango Tieno gave us several recommendations, which were well noted and onboarded. We also had a comment from Wesley Curie from ALS, gave us some comments regarding the scope of approval, which is a new introduction in the Airworthiness Regulations, which was also on. We also had a question from Neville Ford from governors regarding who is allowed to carry out maintenance on hot air balloons. There was no clear stipulations on that. However, now we've clearly stated that also the balloon pilot, who is adequately trained on the maintenance on the balloons, has authority to release to service or to issue a maintenance release on the balloons. There was a comment from Ali Omar from Skyward requesting whether they could get a longer validity period of the COV, proposing a period of 4 years. This was not adopted. Since we had recommended, now the COV will be 24 months. Validity will be 24 months. We had also other comments which were answered during the virtual presentation by our representatives who were there. So we noted them as clearly done. So we also got submissions from Fred Opot. He gave us several recommendations on Regulation 24. We had some issues he was recommending for amendment, some typographical errors, errors of omission, and which were onboarded. Another section on Regulation 40. Mr. Porter noted that we had not replaced the item of certificate of release with the new terminology which we are using now and introduced as per the ICAO document of a maintenance release. That was onboarded. So Mr. Porter also commented on Regulation 55 about aeronautical user fees and the issue of appeals of the tribunal, which I believe was addressed yesterday. Okay, sorry about that technical hitch. Seems my computer is not projecting. Yeah, the last, second last items were about the aeronautical user fees and the appeals tribunal, which was addressed yesterday, and there was some comments from Mr. Opot regarding Regulation 20 on the Certificate of Fitness, 21, which he needed some more input and further interpretation. So the last two items are around Regulation 21 is on the maintenance release. So Mr. Pott was saying that we needed to clarify it. So this clarification would come in terms of technical guidance material. We'll be able to issue that. So some of this recommendation which were put forward, we deliberate them with the department, and we will have further deliberations with Mr. Opot as well, because some were not able to be inserted in the regulation as is, because we'll be able to put them in the technical guidance material as well. So we also had comments from KQ. Theirs was just an acknowledgement of the movement of the validity period of the C of A from 12 months to 24 months. So they stated that that was much appreciated and most welcomed. Thank you. We also received a comment from Muhuai through Major Nyanjui regarding Regulation 27, which was stating the maintenance being carried out by the AMO. Their concern was the roles, which have just been addressed by my manager going forward. The requirement that they are supposed to have a head of maintenance while the task is being carried out by the AMO. So that one was addressed by my manager, and the requirements will be addressed in the AOC regulation. The last comments which we received yesterday were from Airworks. Airworks made a comment on Regulation 7. Regulation 7, sub 1. This regulation talks about the application for COV may be made by the owner or on behalf of the owner, provided that, and then it gives you the various requirements that are supposed to be met by this applicant. So the recommendation by Airworks team was that we expound because this has brought some issues with the operator. We've had several scenarios where the owner of the aircraft is not necessarily operating the aircraft. Could be a bank, could be a financier, or just somebody owning the aircraft but not necessarily operating. So they recommended that we say made by the owner or operator stroke agent on behalf of the owner, provided that they meet this requirement. So this proposal has been agreed by the team, and we've incorporated it. The other request was done by Airworks was regarding Regulation 8 on certificate of airworthiness. So whereby we gave the classification of the certificate of airworthiness. So he was recommending that Regulation 8 stays as it was, where the previous Regulation 8.1 stated a person shall not fly an aircraft unless there is in force respect to that aircraft a certificate of airworthiness or restricted or a special flight permit duly issued or rendered valid under the laws of the states of registry, and any conditions subject to which the certificate was issued or rendered valid are. So in the current draft, what we did, we just transposed the requirements of ICAO, Annex 8, Part 2, Chapter 3.3, which classified all these different types of COV as certificate of airworthiness. Then when we went down to Regulation 9, that's where we expounded them. That's why we deleted the different types. If you notice from the previous regulation, there were all the 3 different types of certificate of airworthiness: restricted, special, and the standard. So in the new draft, we compress them and they're all referred to the certificate of airworthiness. And then we go down to Regulation 9. This is where now we say the certificate of airworthiness shall be classified as followed. This is where we talk about the standard certificate of airworthiness, a special airworthiness certificate, special flight permit, and an export certificate of airworthiness. So the recommendation by Airworks, it was a matter of clarifying this, so I believe my explanation will be sufficient. We don't need to go back to the other way, because we just collapsed Regulation 8, and now we expounded it on Regulation 9. The other comment by Airworks was on with regards to validity period of the export COV. Validity period of the export COV. Previously in the regulation it was stated as 45 days, should be valid for 45 days. Currently we've put it at 90 days. So Airworks were recommending that we put it open, give it an open-ended. So I'll have my manager mention something about this, handle this.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. This one on export COV was with regard with aircraft that come into the country for registration. So that currently, as is in the regulation, it says that for you to register an aircraft in Kenya, you must have an export COV issued to the aircraft. Now, if you are bringing this aircraft in 2022 and an export COV is issued today, due to many reasons, finances and many other things, this aircraft might sit up to 2026. Then you come now to KCAA and register and get the COV. So what the authority is requiring in this regulation is that between the time of you applying for certificate of airworthiness, meaning that the aircraft will have already been registered, it had already been issued with an export COV, which by the time the authority is issuing a certificate of airworthiness, that the date of issue of that certificate should have been at least 90 days. Currently the regulation is giving 45, but from experience with the industry, it's a challenge to bring the aircraft and within 45 days you finished paying all the debts and everything and clearance. Then we said, why don't we extend another 45 days to give the industry 90 days? 90 days is there. But there is no standard. We only extended what is existing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We also had item 41D, talking about log cards for any serviced life limited component as appropriate. So recommendation proposal by Airworks team was that this information of service life components are being maintained in a software system, that it can suffice to this log card. Probably I'll have my colleague Mr. Kakai answer this.
Thank Thank you, Timothy. This introduction of lockups is just for parts on an aircraft. No, the whole aircraft is also a live component. So it has a logbook called an aircraft logbook for monitoring it. And then aircraft are also life limited. Therefore, we need to have these items to be monitored. That means we have to know their life cycles, hours, calendar, that kind of thing. So we introduced it, but here I know the operator wants to know what will be the contents on the log cards. These ones are provided from the manufacturer, that you are going to monitor this engine under this under either hours or a calendar, and or the fatigue life is this. So that one will get from the manufacturer, and we'll also make a TGM that will address what the contents are supposed to be there. On the issue of saying locals, maybe they can be very many, or that kind of thing, we are saying you can use any system to come up as a log card. We can use a software, and you make your log card, and therefore you'll monitor it on the system. So easy for you to monitor this using the log card. But we use the basic term called log card, because for a basic aircraft, like 172, if you are monitoring the landing gears, then you'll use a log card. You'll not use the main, or you can use also the logbook if you want, but log card will be particularly for a particular part. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Timothy.
My comments are on the log cards. The comments from Airworks are valid. The aircraft has a lot of subsystems, and when you start tracking subcomponents that have life on them, it brings a lot of complication, because sometimes there's a lot of variables in the component you put. There's components that have different AD status, have different tracking requirements, and these components change every time. So introducing complexities in tracking of these subcomponents, sometimes you might get loaner components, a loaner starter. Sometimes you might get components that don't have the time since new, but are in an overhaul state. So, I propose we limit them to the major sub-assemblies, like the landing gears. But if you start going to sub-components like actuators and smaller things, you can imagine the complication involved. Imagine a complex aircraft that has small sub-assemblies that are all lived in the program. We are sort of replicating the requirements of the maintenance program tracking system, where those small items are already tracked in the system. Then now we are going to create the cards again to track those items. So I was requesting if maybe the authority can list the sub-assemblies or the components that are so critical that we need to create log cards, but don't leave it open-ended. It will be very, very limitless, because some of these components at the time of installation have different applicable time limits on them.
Thank you. The reason why we have come up to monitor these life-limited components. I'm talking about life-limited components. We have what we call AOC, on condition monitored. We have condition monitored, and we have hard time. So on condition monitored, this one, as they go on, we just monitor and maybe remove and check. But now when we come to hard time components, these are components that are left. It means that at time they'll be removed completely. Now, we have been having cases where you get a hard time component from somewhere, you don't know the history, but it's remaining only maybe 2 cycles, yeah? Or the calendar is nearly expiring, and you have got it from somebody who's not giving you any life on this item. So at the end of the day, you are putting your aircraft at risk. And we are saying you don't need to have had the really paper card. We only need you to have a system of monitoring these components. You can track them. For example, those who have maybe have systems in place, you will see they have all the components that are monitored. But we are interested in components that are live. And this one is for airworthiness purposes. And that's why we are put in the airworthiness, so that this aircraft is airworthy. If you don't monitor these hard time components, they can fail anytime. Maybe you have passed. So we are interested in the safety of the aircraft. But if there is a problem of maybe raising the cuts, the low cuts, then you better look for an electronic system where you'll put that card there and you just enter that. It will show you, and you can print out, and you know how old your item is. Thank you.
Okay, I hope that answers. There were some other issues also raised by Airworks, which are just clerical, where we've omitted some or still included the previous regulation 2018. So now those were to be changed to reflect the new current regulation. So with that, that was the last comments we got from the industry. That's my submission, and I welcome any other questions coming from the floor.
Thank you, everybody.
I can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. Okay, so we'll take those 4 comments. We start with the engineer port at the front, and then come here to Major, and then Mwaniki, and then.
Thank you. I know we are trying to race against time, but I just want an assurance that some of these things, you mentioned them, but there were some that you left, which may require some further, elaboration. In my submission, under Regulation 20, the concern was that the certificate of fitness for flight, the way we have dealt with that Regulation 20 may insinuate that it is not sufficient for releasing an aircraft for a test flight for COA renewal. Because I know in the recent past, and probably these are things we have from experience, the COA, before COA test flight, there has been a request for the aircraft to be given a special permit. Now, this issue of special permit is you don't want me to tell history, some of you are bored. The issue of special permit came in after after certificate of fitness for flight. Certificate of fitness for flight has always been there. And every time an aircraft was out of C of A, an engineer could approve it for flight, for test flight, for ferrying from one place to another, provided you don't go outside the borders. So I just wanted a clarification that this is still will still be applied, because the way it is, you see 21 written, it does not expressly discuss the issue of flying the aircraft for renewal of C of A.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Pott, for that. If you can remember the previous draft, there was some words which were added there, which you gave a recommendation, stating that so long as the statement used to state that so long as the C of A was valid, blah, blah, blah. We since went and deleted that section so that this regulation stays as was initially. So we've not changed anything. This regulation has stayed the way it was. The only thing, what you're saying is that it is not coming out very clear that somebody can use this for the purposes of carrying out a test flight. Is that your concern?
Correct.
All right, that's well captured. We'll sit down and address.
That's why I've put there the BCR requirements, because in UK they still use it for that purpose.
The regulation as it is ideally implies that.
Okay.
It's only the interpretation of,
Yeah.
unless we want to make it more explicit.
Okay, that's what me. Now, 21.1, I hope you understand, you've taken into consideration those, the 21.1C. Yes. I just wanted it, because airworthiness regulations are for all aircraft. So I just wanted a clarification when you come to the ground. Okay. 23. 23 is a curious one. These are the responsibilities of the authority on continuing airworthiness. This 23.1E, to ensure that the aircraft is maintained in an airworthy condition and in compliance with maintenance requirements of whatever, all that. The highlighted only applies to aircraft in commercial category. That's what we are saying. Because I think that is clear the way I put it. This just to avoid misunderstanding. 23.2.2. In compliance with regulation 2, sub-regulation 2.1 above, the owner shall be required to submit to the authority a damage assessment report prepared and certified by, I'm proposing we say, a person specified. No, I'm proposing we remove that person specified by the authority, because this person has always been known to be the qualified engineer who can do this assessment and give out a report for purposes of repair. So I think this provision actually is not even a standard. I don't think it's a standard. It should be expanded. The issue that it is dealing with is to do with damaged aircraft. And damaged aircraft is already dealt with under same regulation, but number 46, regulation 46. So let's have a look at that, because it has connotations which, when now you are talking of person specified by the authority, it has some